If you look at how wealth is portrayed in movies, social media, and popular culture, it almost always looks exciting. Sudden business breakthroughs, massive investment wins, luxury lifestyles appearing overnight, stories of people who took huge risks and became wildly successful. Wealth is shown as dramatic, fast, bold, thrilling, and because these stories dominate attention, most people subconsciously believe financial success must feel exciting. But the truth is almost the opposite. Real wealth is usually built quietly, predictably, and honestly, boringly. And this creates one of the biggest psychological conflicts in modern finance, because the brain is wired to chase excitement, but wealth is built through predictability. And when excitement and predictability compete, excitement almost always wins emotionally, which is why so many people chase financial intensity while accidentally avoiding financial stability. Let's start with something extremely important. Your brain evolved to reward novelty. Novelty means something new, unexpected, or stimulating. Novelty triggers dopamine. Dopamine creates excitement. Excitement creates attention, and attention drives behavior. Predictability does the opposite. Predictability reduces stimulation. Predictability feels familiar. Predictability often feels emotionally neutral, and emotionally neutral experiences rarely feel motivating in the short term. But emotionally neutral systems are incredibly powerful in the long term. Now let's talk about how wealth is actually built. Wealth is built through repeated behaviors that produce reliable outcomes. Saving regularly, investing consistently, managing expenses predictably, increasing income steadily, avoiding catastrophic financial mistakes. None of these behaviors are exciting individually, but when repeated over years, they produce extraordinary results. Now here is where psychology becomes fascinating. The brain naturally undervalues predictable rewards. It overvalues unpredictable rewards. This is why lottery tickets feel exciting, why speculative investments feel thrilling, why high-risk financial opportunities attract attention, because unpredictable rewards create strong dopamine spikes, but predictable rewards produce slow, steady serotonin-based satisfaction. Serotonin is associated with stability, calm, and long-term confidence. And while serotonin creates emotional well-being, it rarely creates emotional excitement. This is why predictable financial behavior often feels boring, even when it is extremely effective. Now let's talk about risk perception. Exciting financial opportunities often feel like progress, because excitement creates emotional urgency. But urgency and progress are not the same thing. Urgency pushes quick decisions. Progress requires consistent decisions. Many people confuse financial activity with financial advancement. Trading frequently feels productive. Chasing new opportunities feels ambitious. Making dramatic financial moves feels bold. But wealth is rarely destroyed by lack of activity. It is often destroyed by excessive activity. Predictable financial systems reduce destructive activity, and reducing destructive activity is one of the most underrated forms of wealth building. Now let's talk about emotional tolerance. Predictable financial behavior requires tolerance for boredom, and boredom is psychologically uncomfortable for most people. The brain interprets boredom as lack of stimulation, and when stimulation decreases, the brain searches for excitement. This is why many people sabotage stable financial plans. They become emotionally restless. They seek stimulation through risk. They chase financial excitement to relieve boredom. But boredom is often a sign that a system is stable. Stability feels repetitive. Repetition feels dull. But repetition is the foundation of compounding. Now let's talk about compounding from a psychological perspective. Compounding requires time. Time requires patience. Patience requires emotional stability. Predictable behavior creates emotional stability. And emotional stability allows compounding to operate uninterrupted. Every time someone interrupts a predictable financial system to chase excitement, they reset the compounding process. And compounding hates interruption. Now let's talk about financial noise. Modern financial environments are filled with noise, market headlines, investment trends, social media success stories, economic fear cycles. Noise creates emotional volatility. Emotional volatility creates impulsive decisions. Predictable financial systems reduce exposure to noise. They create clear rules that operate regardless of emotional conditions, and rules are far more reliable than emotional judgment. Now let's talk about confidence. Most people believe confidence comes from winning big, but sustainable confidence comes from predictability. When people know their financial systems work, they experience emotional calm. Calm creates long-term consistency, and consistency creates results that reinforce confidence naturally. Now let's talk about identity. People often associate wealth with excitement, luxury, and visible success. But internally, wealthy individuals often associate wealth with stability, routine, and control. Their identity is not built around dramatic financial wins. It is built around predictable financial behavior, and identity drives behavior strongly. Once someone identifies as stable with money, risky financial excitement becomes emotionally unattractive. Now let's talk about catastrophic mistake avoidance. Wealth is often built not by maximizing gains, but by avoiding devastating losses. Predictable systems protect against catastrophic mistakes. They limit emotional decision-making during market crashes. They prevent excessive spending during emotional highs. They maintain financial structure during life disruptions. Avoiding one major financial mistake can be more powerful than achieving multiple successful investments. Now let's talk about lifestyle stability. Predictable financial behavior creates predictable lifestyle growth. This prevents lifestyle inflation from accelerating faster than income growth. Stable lifestyle growth allows savings and investments to expand naturally over time, and gradual lifestyle expansion is emotionally sustainable. Sudden lifestyle expansion often creates financial pressure and long-term instability. Now let's talk about emotional regulation. Predictability reduces financial anxiety because it removes uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of the strongest emotional triggers for fear and impulsive behavior. When financial systems are predictable, emotional reactions become less intense, and reduced emotional intensity improves decision quality. Now here is something extremely important. Predictability creates freedom in ways excitement never can. Exciting financial decisions often require constant monitoring, emotional involvement, and mental energy. Predictable financial systems operate automatically. They free mental space. They reduce stress. They allow focus on meaningful life experiences. True financial freedom is not just having money. It is having financial stability that does not consume emotional energy. Now let's talk about delayed emotional reward. Predictable wealth building produces emotional reward slowly, but slow emotional reward is stable and long-lasting. Exciting financial wins produce intense emotional reward quickly. But quick emotional reward fades rapidly, and fading reward often triggers desire for more excitement. Predictable reward builds contentment. Exciting reward builds craving, and craving is financially dangerous. Now let's talk about resilience. Predictable systems are resilient during economic uncertainty. Markets fluctuate, income changes, unexpected expenses happen. Predictable financial systems continue operating regardless of external conditions, and resilience is one of the strongest predictors of long-term wealth survival. Now let's talk about the predictability paradox. Predictable financial behavior feels unimpressive daily, but produces impressive results over decades. Exciting financial behavior feels impressive daily, but often produces unstable results long-term. This paradox confuses many people because emotional perception does not match mathematical reality. Now here's the final transformation. When people stop chasing financial excitement and begin valuing financial predictability, their entire relationship with money changes. Money stops feeling like a game. It stops feeling like emotional entertainment. It becomes a tool for stability and intentional living, and once money becomes predictable, fear decreases. When fear decreases, consistency increases. When consistency increases, compounding accelerates. And compounding is where wealth quietly grows beyond expectations. Wealth is rarely built through dramatic breakthroughs. It is built through routines so predictable they become almost invisible. Predictable deposits. Predictable investments, predictable spending habits, predictable financial reviews. None of these behaviors feel exciting in isolation. But together, repeated over time, they create something incredibly powerful. They create certainty. And certainty is the hidden foundation of lasting financial success. Because excitement may capture attention, but predictability quietly builds empires. Another reason predictability feels uncomfortable is because modern culture celebrates dramatic transformation. People admire sudden glow-ups. They celebrate overnight success. They idolize stories that move quickly from struggle to triumph. These stories are emotionally satisfying because they compress time. They remove the slow, repetitive middle phase where most real progress happens. But compressing time in storytelling distorts expectations in real life. When people expect financial progress to feel dramatic, they become discouraged when progress feels ordinary. And discouragement is one of the most dangerous emotional triggers in financial behavior. Because discouragement creates the illusion that effort is pointless. And once effort feels pointless, consistency collapses. Now here is something fascinating about how the brain evaluates progress. The brain does not measure improvement using objective math. It measures improvement using emotional contrast. If progress feels noticeable, the brain labels it as meaningful. If progress feels subtle, the brain often ignores it. Predictable wealth building produces extremely subtle daily changes. A small percentage return, a slightly larger account balance, a slightly stronger financial cushion. These changes are mathematically powerful, but emotionally quiet. And because they are emotionally quiet, people underestimate them. This is why people abandon financial systems right before those systems begin producing visible results. Because the emotional signal lags behind the mathematical signal. Now let's talk about the illusion of control. Exciting financial decisions often create the feeling of personal influence. Making active investment decisions feels intelligent. Chasing new income opportunities feels ambitious. Constantly adjusting financial strategies feels productive. But feeling in control is not the same as being in control. Predictable systems reduce decision frequency, and reducing decisions often improves outcomes. Because many financial mistakes are not caused by lack of intelligence, they are caused by excessive emotional interference. Every decision introduces emotional bias. Every emotional bias increases volatility. And volatility weakens long-term financial stability. Predictable systems remove the opportunity for emotional mistakes to accumulate. Now let's talk about stress addiction. Many people do not realize they are psychologically addicted to financial urgency. Urgency creates adrenaline. Adrenaline creates focus. Focus creates emotional intensity. Over time, some people associate intensity with importance. If something does not feel intense, they assume it is not meaningful. Predictable financial behavior rarely creates urgency. It operates quietly in the background, and because it lacks urgency, it can feel unimportant. But importance and intensity are not the same thing. Many of the most important processes in life are slow and quiet: healing, learning, growth, and wealth building. Now let's talk about long-term emotional safety. Predictability builds trust, not just trust in financial systems, but trust in yourself. When you follow predictable financial behaviors consistently, your brain begins to associate money with safety instead of uncertainty. This reduces background anxiety that many people carry without realizing it. Financial anxiety is often subtle. It appears as low-level stress about the future, fear of unexpected expenses, uncertainty about life decisions, difficulty relaxing fully. Predictable financial systems reduce these hidden emotional burdens, and emotional stability creates life flexibility. When money becomes stable, people make better career decisions. They take healthier risks. They experience stronger personal relationships. They sleep better. Predictability creates ripple effects far beyond bank balances. Now let's talk about time perception. Exciting financial events feel fast. Predictable financial growth feels slow. But psychological time perception is often misleading. Exciting financial events create peaks and crashes. Predictable financial growth creates smooth upward movement, and smooth upward movement, while emotionally quiet, is mathematically dominant over long time periods. This is why many wealthy individuals describe their progress as feeling slow until they look back and realize how far they've come. Now let's talk about social invisibility. Predictable wealth building is often invisible to others. There are no dramatic announcements, no viral success moments, no immediate external validation, and humans are deeply influenced by social validation. We naturally want our progress to be recognized. When financial progress is invisible, motivation can weaken. This is why predictable wealth building requires internal validation. People must learn to measure success using personal metrics instead of social approval. And internal validation is psychologically more stable than external validation. External validation fluctuates. Internal validation compounds. Now let's talk about emotional momentum. Excitement creates rapid emotional momentum, but it fades quickly. Predictability creates slow emotional momentum, but it becomes extremely durable over time. Durable momentum is what allows financial systems to survive stress, economic downturns, and personal life disruptions. Now let's talk about cognitive load. Constant financial decision-making consumes mental energy. Tracking market changes, evaluating opportunities, reacting to economic news, monitoring spending constantly. This cognitive load creates fatigue. Fatigue reduces decision quality. Reduced decision quality increases mistakes. Predictable financial systems automate behavior. Automation reduces cognitive load, and reduced cognitive load protects long-term decision stability. Now let's talk about emotional recovery. When financial systems are predictable, mistakes become smaller and easier to recover from. But when financial behavior is unpredictable and emotionally driven, mistakes become larger and recovery becomes slower. Predictability acts as a shock absorber. It prevents small mistakes from turning into catastrophic setbacks. Now, let's talk about patience tolerance. Predictable wealth building trains patience, and patience is not passive. Patience is active emotional discipline. It is the ability to continue behavior without immediate reward, and patience strengthens every long-term success system, not just finances. Now let's talk about identity reinforcement. Once predictable financial behavior becomes part of identity, behavior becomes effortless. People stop asking, "Should I save this month?" They stop debating, "Should I invest consistently?" It becomes automatic. Identity-based behavior requires far less willpower than decision-based behavior, and willpower is unreliable long-term. Identity is stable long-term. Now let's talk about financial calmness. Financial calmness is one of the least discussed but most powerful states a person can achieve. It is the ability to experience money without fear, urgency, or emotional swings. Predictability builds calmness. Calmness improves judgment. Improved judgment protects wealth. Now here is something most people never realize. Predictability is not restrictive. It is liberating, because when financial systems are predictable, people gain freedom to focus on experiences, creativity, relationships, and personal growth. They no longer need money to create emotional excitement, and once money stops being entertainment, it becomes empowerment. Now let's talk about long-term satisfaction. Exciting financial wins create intense happiness that fades quickly. Predictable financial progress creates moderate satisfaction that deepens slowly, and deep satisfaction is emotionally sustainable. It does not create craving. It does not create emotional crashes. It creates stability. Now let's talk about the final psychological shift. When people truly understand the predictability advantage, they stop chasing financial adrenaline. They begin chasing financial reliability. They stop asking, "How can I win big?" They start asking, "How can I remain stable no matter what happens?" And that question changes everything. Because stability creates resilience. Resilience creates consistency. Consistency creates compounding. and compounding creates wealth that feels almost effortless in hindsight. Predictable wealth building does not look impressive in daily life. It looks repetitive, quiet, sometimes even boring. But behind that quiet repetition, something extraordinary is happening. Time is working, math is working, behavior is working, and slowly, invisibly, predictability is turning ordinary financial habits into extraordinary financial outcomes. Because excitement may start financial journeys, but predictability is what allows them to actually succeed.